the best going track in Florida, ladies and gentlemen, and you are in store for an awesome show here tonight. About 9 minutes. Get ready, because we're going to shake the ground.
That's all the way, and then I have to do the next ISO.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, good.
Doug, do you have starting line cam?
We're excited about the ball in action. Let's make some noise here. Good deal. I want to make sure we're doing great crowd. There's still some folks coming in, and we're excited to see them.
Right.
We got the line up in the city, and they're going to be coming in at former Senator
Hey, Doug, do you have the starting line camera?
Remember, we're into the spring of the whole time on. We're so excited to be here. And as you know, tractor pulling, racing, motorsports, and just after motorsports, very patriotic in what we do, and we love to honor our country by, of course, our colors in the middle of the track. We ask everyone who can stand, please do so. And if you have a tab on top of your head, please remove that.
No, I didn't hear you. Yes. Kenzie, can you help me real quick?
Well, welcome everybody here to session number 2 here in Satsuma, Florida. Full Pull Live. I'm Dan Mayer. I will be your host for this evening's competition as we are just about ready to get things rolling here tonight. We've got another great show. If you fans joined us last night here in Florida, we had just a barn burner of a program. Double track action here. We are here at the Just Add Dirt Motorsports Park in Satsuma, Florida, about 45 minutes south of the Jacksonville area, as we hear some of the competitors in the background getting ready to fire up as we've got our first track here up on the start line. A lot of different classes you're going to see here tonight that they run down here in the state of Florida, and of course some of the classes that you have seen over the years here on Full Pull Live. So it's going to be an outstanding program here, and it looks like we've got the track just about ready to roll here with our first competitor coming up here in our improved farm class here tonight. They call this improved farm, and Mark Kelsey, the promoter right here, going to get things kicked off here, the improved class. International 1066. Mark coming off a big win last night here in this class as we get things rolling here tonight. Full Pull Live here in Florida. Well, you take a look at the look on Mark's face. He was determined here tonight as he's going to get things rolling here in our improved farm class. So we're going to run double track action here. We'll start with the improved farm class over on the grandstand side here tonight as Mark Kelsey lays down a nice run with his International 1066. Our winner from last night. So looks like we've got the Pro Stock four-wheel drives over on the infield track here tonight. We've got the On the Mark sled over there, Mark Brigham, out of the state of Ohio. He is going to be our sled operator over there as we're going Pro Stock four-wheel drive. All right, good run for the Dodge right there. And I believe this is going to be Dan Jernigan here with his old black Dodge here, as he's going to get things started here in our Pro Stock four-wheel drive competition. So we got the improved farm class over on the grandstand side, the Pro Stock four-wheel drive, and we've got a mishmash of different four-wheel drive competitors here as we start things off there. As we see the old school Dodge, it's got more or less the street DOT tires on this truck here. So he'll be our test puller up here in our first class over here on the infield side, which will be the Pro Stock four-wheel drive trucks. As Dan Jernigan out of Ocala, Florida, 1973 Dodge, calls it the old black Dodge here as he gets things underway here in our competition here. So the Pro Stock four-wheel drives, and I think we've got about 6 or 7 of those lined in here for competition, and they will get things rolling here tonight. So once again, we're here at the Satsuma Just Add Dirt Motorsports Park here in Satsuma, Florida, as we get ready to roll here with our next competitor on the starting line, as we've got here in our improved farm class. So it looks like the 1206 International up there going to be Lawrence Heyman out of New Smyrna, Florida, as this tractor is called Dollars and No Cents International 1206. Lawrence, I do believe, finished up number 2 last night with this tractor. He'll also have one of the V8 hot rods a little bit later on here. So Lawrence Heyman with his International 1206 on the start line is he's looking to go better than Mark Kelsey's distance here. We'll see if we can bring that up here. Mark Kelsey's leading distance, and we also got to get the four-wheel drive here, Dan Jernigan, and see what his decision is here as our test puller. So Lawrence Heyman underway here. Improved farm class, some of the local classes running here, getting the show started before we start moving into the heavy iron. And a real good run right there, Dollars and No Cents. All right, so good run right there. Now 3:24.05. All right, so we got a distance here for Mark Kelsey. He went 3:24.05 to set the mark. Over on the Pro Stock four-wheel drive side, Dan Jernigan with that Dodge, he went 263.33. So we'll see whether or not they were happy with their runs here tonight. As we're going back to the starting line, we've got the money pit here, 1987 Ford Ranger, and this is Randy Whiting. Now, Randy ran really good last night with this strong running Ford Ranger. We had the Chevrolet pick up the big win last night. Let's see what's going to happen here tonight. 263.33, what he's got to beat. Randy Whiting from right here in Florida, the money pit. And applying that horsepower to the ground here tonight. And looks like kind of clunked out on him there at the end of the run, but a nice run for the money pit truck. Ford Ranger, 1987 version. And I believe out of Claremont, Florida, here tonight. The money pit. So we'll wait and see what the distance comes up here for the money pit, whether or not he went further than 263.33. Of course, for those fans watching for the first time, the object of our sport, pretty simple. Whoever can pull that weight sled the furthest distance will be our winner. As there we see the distance, 290 and 57. So we got a new leader here in our four-wheel drive class, 290.57. A good run for Randy Whiting as he sets the mark to beat here in our Pro Stock four-wheel drive competition here tonight. As we see over on the improved farm side, we've got a distance of 313.40. 313.40 for dollars and no cents here tonight, as that was Lawrence Heyman out of New Smyrna Beach. And that will put him in that number 2 spot. So we're underway here as we've got the John Deere here, Rob Bell, the Deere Doctor. Good looking John Deere. 4440 out of Winter Haven, Florida. Here he comes. Can the Deere do it? No. We see right there the 300-foot mark right in front of the tractor. Got off to that left-hand side just a little bit here. So the John Deere going to come up short here. Improved farm class here tonight. One of the local classes here. As we've got our final competitor should be the Little Beef out of Woodstock, Virginia. That's going to be Levi Hamrick here tonight. Ford 8000. So beautiful evening for pulling here in Satsuma, Florida. We just had Dirt Motorsports Park as the action underway, hot and heavy here, as we see the young lady making her way out on the track here, this old school international pickup here. It's going to be the dinosaur truck, and this truck has definitely turned some heads here. Going to be Lael White doing the driving. She's out of Leesburg, Florida here. 1967 International pickup. So we'll see if the young lady can get the job done here. Ford sitting on top here. Randy Whiting with the money pit Ranger at 290.57. The Dodge, Dan Jernigan, number 2 at 263.33 here. Pro Stock four-wheel drive trucks. We see Lael there as she'll get her last-minute instructions. We'll put that helmet on and get ready to go to work here tonight. And she's a serious competitor. Talked to her a couple weeks ago down an event down there in Zellwood, Florida. She was down there running. So let's see what the International has for us here tonight. 290.57, the high water mark here early in the class. Tough break there for Lael. She got to hopping and tried to drive out of it, but just would not allow here tonight. So a tough break for the young lady. As you can see she's definitely disappointed here tonight. So our track length here tonight, fans, we got it measured out around 350 feet here. And we've got about 400 to 450 feet to work with here. Shut down here as we go down into turn number 4 here at the racetrack. This facility used to be run as a dirt track, about a quarter-mile dirt track. 2 drag strips and a couple hairpins. It's very tight. They used to call it the clip. As we see the Ford on the starting line here. The Little Beef tractor. This is going to be Levi Hamrick out of Woodstock, Virginia, Ford 8000. So 287.92 the distance for the Ford, 287.92 the distance. As we've got Levi Hamrick ready to go here tonight in our improved farm class. So Mark Kelsey, the promoter, on top of this class at 324.05 with his International 1066. Let's see here what the Ford can do. He's underway. It just doesn't have the ground speed. And yeah, Levi going to shut it down here. Ford 8000 Little Beef. Going to come up short here tonight, but so it looks like that will conclude our first class here tonight, the improved farm class, as we get things started here, session number 2. Beautiful, beautiful night for pulling here in Satsuma, Florida. Temperatures during the day, we got up to the low 80s, and here tonight going to drop down into about the mid 60s. So very comfortable for the fans out there.
Oh, yeah, that's my job now. Yeah.
As we see the Little Beef tractor pulling off the track here. And we'll get the distance in here for him.
Yeah. Oh, really? How long have you been here?
So we also have the Pro Stock 4-wheel drives underway. We're getting Lael White's dinosaur truck, the 67 International, off the track here, and we will get a distance here for Lael, but no doubt she is not happy with that run here tonight. So it looks like we're going to move over on the grandstand side over to our naturally aspirated mini rod class here tonight. As we've got a whole pile of those tractors here tonight. Once again, they put on a great show. We've seen the big block and the small block tractors, naturally aspirated. No superchargers, no turbocharging allowed in that class. So this is John Edwards out of Eustis, Florida, with his Ford F-250 1985 version. Will be next up in our competition here tonight. Ran real good, I believe, in right around that number 2, number 3 spot last night. Right now, the Ford Ranger out front at 290.57. So looks like going to spot that sled about center out here. And usually that's how it works here. Early on in a pulling event, we'll start in the middle of the track. And, of course, every competitor has that option where they want to move that sled. You can put it anywhere you want between those white lines. So here early on in our 4-wheel drive class, we're going to work that middle part of the track. So Fords aplenty here. We've seen a couple Fords, seen a Dodge, seen an International, and we got a Chevrolet to fill out the field here. Here we go. 85 Ford, John Edwards. Oh, man, just like that. On a good pass out there, and something I'd have to say probably ignition with that truck, as we saw a lot of blue flame out that right side header. So John Edwards out of Eustis, Florida, with his F-250. So we're down to one here. The Chevrolet, last night's winner. Art Williams with the slightly twisted number 2 out of Avella, Pennsylvania. He came down here to Florida and took home the bacon last night. All right, so it looks like we'll see if we can get the distance in here. But definitely a tough break there, John Edwards and the F-250. So 262.83 will put him number 3 spot, but Number 3 out of 4 trucks. Not what he was looking for here tonight. So it looks like, no, we're not going to run the minis over there on the grandstand side here. Looks like we're going to go with our Super Farm Mod Turbo class here. As we've got our first tractor up there. Should be Scott Tiscadden out of Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, with his New Holland T6 175. So there you see our leaderboard, the Money Pit. Now over on the four-wheel drive side, the Money Pit truck leading the way here early on in our four-wheel drive class. Randy Whiting at 290.57. You see the Dinosaur there filling out the field, 211.09. And that was Lael White. So Super Farm Mod Turbo class, as we see backing in over there on the grandstand track here tonight. As we'll have to take a look here and see if we can find our lineup here for these tractors. All right, Super Farm Mod Turbo. So Scott Tiscadden out of Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. Bleeding Blue should be up number 1 here. And actually, I think this is going to be Macy Tiscadden with her Smoke Show tractor. Going to be up number 1 here. So we got our lineup a little mixed here, but here we go. Got to run the Super Farms and the Mod Turbos together tonight. And it's blue. It's out of Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. Yep, only one per capita. The most blue tractors you will see down there in that Chambersburg, Shippensburg area. As we see the back tires, the Chevrolet, last night's big winner. Here he goes. Art Williams, slightly twisted, number 2. And this is going to be close. 1978 Chevrolet. And the fans come alive here. Satsuma, Florida. Did the Chevrolet do it here tonight? Now 290.57 is what he had to beat. 290 and 57. So we will see. Looks like got the front of that sled just about to that lead distance marker out there. Of course, in pulling, we measure to the front of the sleds, not actually the pulling vehicle. So Art pulls away here after a good run with his slightly twisted truck. As we've got the Super Farm Mod Turbo class running over on the grandstand side here tonight. So we will see here as we saw Macy Tiscadden with her Smoke Show. She was our test puller in the class. All right, so we got the Iron Maiden up next. It's going to be Sue Johnson out of Shippensburg, Pennsylvania, with her blue machine. So we see 289 and 95. 289 and 95 for Macy Tiscadden here tonight. 289.95. And she will set the mark to beat here in our Super Farm Mod Turbo class here tonight. Now, last night in our competition, we saw Doug Heyman with his International, the Bulls Binder, take the big win over all the Fords. So we'll see if he can double up, or we're going to have a new winner here tonight. In this very interesting class. So we'll get the distance over there on the four-wheel drive side as we have, looks like, concluded that class there. Art Williams with the slightly twisted 2. We'll get his distance here. The man out of Pennsylvania. All right, so as we see if we can get a leaderboard up here with our finishers from the Pro Stock four-wheel drive classes, there we see Art Williams here on the replay. Great run down the left-hand side of the track. Is that Chevrolet working for everything out there? And there it is, 3:19.46. Going to be our winner here tonight, 3:19.46 to take the win. So he is going to double up here tonight, here this weekend. Art Williams and the Slightly Twisted 2 out of Avella, Pennsylvania. 3:19.46 will take the win. The Money Pit will finish in the number 2 spot. That's Randy Whiting and his 87 Ranger. And then filling out the top 3 was the Ford F-250 there. Oh, actually, the old Black Dodge. That's what it was, the old Black Dodge in the number 3 spot. That was Dan Jernigan out of Ocala, Florida with his 73 Dodge filling out that top 3. So good class of Pro Stock 4-wheel drives. We go back to the start line here in our Mod Turbo Super Farm class here tonight. Sue Johnson, our second young lady here in the class. And trouble right off the start line here for Sue, and did not make it past that 100-foot mark, so every competitor has 2 attempts to make a measurable distance if you don't get past that 100-foot mark. So we're going to pull her right back, if nothing too serious, on the tractor, which I don't think. She's already turning around, so it looks like we're just going to pull her on back, and didn't have the start she was looking for out there with the Iron Maiden tractor. Good-looking tractor. Out of Shippensburg, Pennsylvania here, Sue Johnson. So once again, early on here in Satsuma, Florida, session number 2 at the Just Add Dirt Motorsports Park. Thank all you fans for joining us on Full Pull Live. Make sure you head on over to Full Pull Picks. We got 3 classes. Be able to do a little bit of wagering here tonight. You just pick out the winners. There's a couple banks of vehicles. You pick out both of the winners from those 2 banks, and you will be a winner here tonight. We will be doing that in the blown mini rod class, the 3.0 diesel trucks, and the Pro Stock. So the 3 classes you'll be able to do a little bit of wagering on. So head on over to Full Pull Picks before those class started, because once the class starts, you are locked out. So 289.95 is the mark to beat here in our Mod Turbo Super Farm class. Is Sue Johnson. This will be her second and final attempt, whether it's 1 inch or 350 feet. This is what's going to go down in the record book for her, as she starts to build the boost. Single turbocharger on these tractors. Good looking Ford. And looks like started to bring the tractor up, but maybe not in gear here. We'll see. Through walking on over, checking things out. So once again, congratulations to Art Williams out of Avella, Pennsylvania. He will be our first winner of the evening. Well, actually, first winner on this infield track here tonight, as the Slightly Twisted 2 takes the big win here. 1978 Chevrolet 319.46. So great weekend for him as he sweeps it. Takes all the cash back north. As we wait and see here whether or not the Iron Maiden going to be able to make her run here tonight. So it looks like we're going to go ahead light supers over here on the infield track here on the Mark sled. So just waiting here to see. All right, we see Mark Kelsey backing in his International 1256. Just Add Dirt. Now Mark's already got 1 win in his back pocket here tonight. Tough class. We've got the light supers here. We got 3 of them on hand here this weekend, and they put on a show last night. We got 2 Alkies and a diesel here to put on their show. Mark Kelsey, our test puller here with his alcohol-powered light super stock tractor here. 504 cubic inches allowed, up to 4 turbochargers. See the big 30.5 rear tires. Larry Phillips, he was our big winner last night. Oh, Mark Kelsey, a big flame out the tractor here, but he was tight up against that left-hand chalk line, working it. Of course, any portion of that pulling vehicle touches that white line, you will be a big DQ, disqualification, so you had to make sure. And looks like we're getting the thumbs up there from trackside. But he was hard on that right brake, trying to keep that tractor in bounds here tonight. And of course, the pullers will tell you touch that brake, it'll cost you at least 10 feet in your distance. So, but a good hard run here. 313 and 93. 313.93 for Mark Kelsey. 313.93 here in our light super class here tonight. To set the mark to beat as we go back over Super Farm. Here's last night's winner. All right, Doug Heyman and the Bulls binder out of Ridgely, Maryland. International 1066. You can see he's got that 5 million tractor scheme on there that is so popular we've seen over the years. And whether it's super stock, we've seen him in limited pros. We've seen him also in Super Farm. But a good run there for Doug Heyman as he's looking to double up here this weekend as he lays down an excellent run. As he'll go past that 289.95. So, yeah, 317.24 will take the lead in our Super Farm Mod Turbo class here tonight. 317.24 for the International 1066 out of Maryland. So, Doug Heyman lays down the gauntlet right there. As you can see, a whole bunch of blue there. Going to follow up here. So we didn't hear any word whether or not we're going to see the Iron Maiden of Sue Johnson. Now, they pulled her back in the staging lanes. We didn't see her go by us here at the end of the track. So we'll see if she's going to come back a little bit later on. Once again, Dan Mayer joining you here in Satsuma, Florida here for the Just Add Dirt Nationals here at the Motorsports Park. Mark Kelsey and his crew putting on an outstanding event here this weekend. And we talked about earlier, this layout here for this facility just absolutely perfect for pulling action. As we see, we've got our next Mod Turbo tractor making its way. Now, the Mod Turbo class, very popular up there in the Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia area. Run quite a bit up there with the interstate pullers. As here's Scott Kiskadden. Say that once or twice, but Scott, a very tough puller up there with the interstate group over the years. The Bleeding Blue. He held the lead last night for pretty much the whole class until we saw the Bulls binder come up and knock him out of that number one spot. So Scott's looking for some revenge here tonight. So we're going to see what's going to happen here as Scott brings it up to the start line. So for those folks watching on Facebook as well as YouTube, we're going to watch one more tractor and we're going to say goodnight. You can join us here, $39.99. You can check all the action. Got a lot of great things coming up here in the spring, so this will be the last one that will be on the free Facebook Live as well as YouTube, as we'll run Scott Kiskadden here with the Bleeding Blue Mod Turbo tractor. So 317.24, the mark to beat here. 317.24. Doug Heyman with that Bulls binder in the lead. It looks like Scott a little bit left of center out there on the track. You can see right where that roller came on through there, and that's where he's going to run. So going to take the Bex Hybrid sled for a ride here. Scott Kiskadden out of Chambersburg, PA. Yeah, got up against the wall there, up against the high side of the track, the left side of the track here. As we've got Larry Phillips on the start line, the Insanity International 1066, our big winner last night, over 400 feet. Here we go. All right, not going to be 400 feet here tonight, but going to take over that number one spot here. International 1066. Now, this tractor actually been sitting on the shelf for the Phillips family. I talked to Larry this morning at breakfast, and he had said, yeah, Dan, I haven't driven this tractor in quite a few years, but it was like an old pair of shoes last night, and we saw it here tonight. It looked really good here. So Larry Phillips with the Insanity 1066 International. Going to take the lead here. We'll find out by exactly how much. Now, of course, the Phillips got a busy week ahead of them here with the National Farm Machinery Show. They've been accepted to pull there on Saturday afternoon with their two light supers. Now going to run two different tractors than you saw here tonight, as Larry will have his extremely insane MX tractor. And then we will see Brandon with his John Deere out there on Saturday afternoon. So Scott Cascadden goes 304.89. 304.89 for that number two spot here in our Combo Super Farm Mod Turbo class. 304.89. So a real good run there for Scott. As we will take a look here, Larry Phillips, 340.13, new leader. So 340.13. It's not going to be 400 feet here tonight, but they will take it. Vine Grove, Kentucky. Just south there of the Louisville area, actually southwest. There's Larry and crew, a big excavating company they run down there. So 340.13 will be the new mark to beat in our light super stock class. So that will mean the tractor out of Tullahoma, Tennessee, the Light Trouble, Ryan Henley. Now it's a diesel. Going to be our last shot in the class. This tractor ran really strong last night. We're going to bump things over here to the combo class, as we should have up next here in our competition. This looks like the beefy Anthony Hamrick out of Virginia, Woodstock, Virginia. They had a nice run for the beefy tractor here tonight. Ford TW25. You see, out of the state of Virginia, I lied to you. I said, you know, all the tractors, the blue ones, they come out of that Chambersburg area, but you can see on the side of that tractor, got that Forester sticker, so you know where they had the work done. So Anthony Hamrick out of Woodstock, Virginia, with his Ford TW25 here tonight. All chasing the Bulls binder there. Doug Heyman out of Maryland at 317.24. So here we go. Final tractor in our light super stock class. Don't see too many of the diesels in the light class anymore. Most of them have gone to the Alki, but this is a tough one here. You see the Light Trouble. As we go back here to the replay for Anthony Hamrick, the beefy tractor. So 279.32 the distance here, 279.32. We'll put him in that number 4 spot, 279.32. So there we take a look up at the Light Trouble tractor, Tullahoma, Tennessee. Ryan Henley, the lone diesel. There we see Kenny Hale alongside the tractor, the owner of the machine. Longtime puller, Diesel Supers. Built this light tractor years ago. Which ran the Night Trouble, hence Light Trouble here when we built the light one. Here we go. Oh, that tractor can hunt. Now we saw that up and down motion. Of course, hurting the distance here tonight for Ryan, but wow, making plenty of power here. Of course, you see that front end come up and down like that. Of course, it changes that angle of that chain, just makes that sled that much harder to pull out there. But nonetheless, a good run there for Ryan Henley out of Tullahoma, Tennessee. So we'll see, going to challenge here for that number 2 spot. There's Mark Kelsey and Ryan Henley here right about the same spot on the track here, but looks like Larry Phillips had him covered here tonight. As you see that up and down motion we talked about. Now ideally, we've talked about it numerous times, you get that front end up, and ideally you want it just to sit about 12 to 15 inches off the ground and settle right there. Just not able to get that to happen here tonight. Of course, this good biting track here. Got Georgia clay in it. So 3:20.54. Good run for number 2 for Ryan Henley. 3:20.54. All right, this is the king of Mod Turbo there in Pennsylvania, the Papa Smurf, Jason Forrester. Been running these tractors for so many years at Ford 9000. And he's going to be close here. He didn't like that International taking the win last night. So they were back there working on that tractor, tuning her up. As the Papa Smurf moves off the track here, Jason Forrester, we'll see here on the replay, really got locked into the track pretty early here. And going to challenge here, 3:17.24, the mark to beat here in our Super Farm Mod Turbo class. We see a great hole shot there. And there it is, 3:25.67. New leader, 3:25.67. We'll take over that number 1 spot here. And Doug Heyman not going to get the sweep here this weekend. Papa Smurf will take over that number 1 spot, 3:25.67. And we'll move the Bulls binder back to the number 2 spot, 3:17.24. As there we take a look at our Light Super final results here tonight. So for the second night in a row, Larry Phillips out of Pine Grove, Kentucky, going to be our winner on the Insanity Tractor, 3:40.13. Number 2 will go to Ryan Henley, the Light Trouble, at 3:20.54. And then rounding out the top 3 was Mark Kelsey with his Just Add Dirt at 3:13.93. So great competition there in our light class. As the diesel and alcohol tractors, pretty close out there. Real close competition. And Larry Phillips had him covered here once again here tonight. So back over to the Super Farm Mod Turbo class. And we've got Jason Forrester, our new leader, at 3:25.67 here tonight. As there we take a look in the staging lanes as we have got the blown mini rods getting ready to go here tonight. Now here tonight we've got 4 tractors in competition. Last night's winner, Kevin Hill out of Bristol, Vermont. Unfortunately, this afternoon, fans had a motorcycle accident here and in the hospital here tonight. So our thoughts and prayers are out to Kevin. He's doing all right, but he's pretty banged up out there. But no doubt he's probably watching on Full Pull Live here tonight. He's been texting back and forth with Chase and Cody Singletary here this afternoon. So, but thoughts and prayers go out to Kevin out of Bristol, Vermont. Not going to be in action here tonight, but good to hear that he will make a recovery here, and we're thinking about you, Kevin. So back here to the Super Farm Mod Turbo side as we've got another Ford moving out on the track. Going to be Mark Culberson and the Stitch tractor. Mark out of Chambersburg, Ford 9000. Just like we just saw with the Papa Smurf. So blown mini rods up next here on the infield track here tonight. As we see Chase Richardson's vibrator tractor, he's sitting back there patiently waiting to go. Jim and Ron Hart will spin it over with the starter, and we'll fire that tractor up. 3,000 horsepower right there. Mini rod tractors weighing in at 2,050 pounds. See the 18.4, 16.1 tires on the back. The wildest ride in motorsports. They can be sometimes. As we go back over the Super Farm side, here comes Stitch. All right, so digging in a little bit before that 300-foot mark out here. So looks like going to be in contention for right around that number 4 spot here tonight. This tightly contested class here. For Mark Culberson and his Ford 9000. But Jason Forrester still out front at 325.67 with just a couple tractors to go. So Chase Richardson backing in the Vibrator tractor out of Litchfield, Kentucky. About 45 to an hour south of the Louisville area. Will be our test puller in the mini rod competition. Now we have brought in the decision maker sled. Richard Love out of Scottsdale, Pennsylvania. The decision maker, you can see it right there. The decision maker mini sled here tonight. To stop these high horsepower mini rods here tonight. So Larry Phillips helping out. Now actually Chase had hauled Larry's tractor down here, so they're teaming up here this weekend. So here we go, test puller mini rod class, 3,000 horsepower. You take a rubber ball and a glass jar and you shake it up. That's a mini rod. Here we go. A real good run for Chase here tonight as he will set the mark to beat here in our mini rod class. Now last night run for Chase, his tractor wanted the one wheel on it, wanted to pull to that right hand side of the track. Here tonight, we've seen just about all the tractors kind of make a move to that left hand side of the track, and he's going to give the thumbs up here as our test puller here in mini rod competition, 2,050 pounds. Of course, that is a maximum weight. The only motorsport where weight is an advantage. As we see here on the replay for Chase. Real good hole shot here with the tractor. So 326 and 65. 326.65 will set to the mark to beat here as Chase is satisfied with that run and will take it here tonight. Says, come and get me if you can. As we got the Iron Maiden back on the start line here for her second and final attempt. This is Sue Johnson. Saw her out earlier, Shippensburg, Pennsylvania, with her Ford 7910 here. So she should have just one more attempt here. We talked about that earlier. She used up one. Didn't make it past 100 foot, so this will be it. The Iron Maiden. All right, nice run there for Sue. She'll come up a little bit short of that 300-foot mark out there, but nonetheless, good run for Sue Johnson. It seems like both these tracks here tonight were taking the competitors off to that left-hand side of the track here. Now, we talked about the track length, approximately 350 feet. They got lined out here. Now, the width of the track, about 40 feet wide or as wide as your normal two-lane highway. And sometimes it can get a little narrow on you when they start moving hard to one side or the other. As we see Sue reaching up, she'll turn that GoPro off. The distance here of 279 and 74. 279 and 74 here for the Iron Maiden. We'll put her in that number 6 spot right now. So we will see here. We should have, this may be it here. So we did have, looks like we did have 8 here on the lineup. So Papa Smurf looks like going to take the win here, Jason Forrester. Now, last night they didn't see the Ford on top, but tonight Jason, he tuned her up. Got her done here tonight, 325 and 67. Last night's winner, the Bulls Binder out of Maryland. And that was Doug Heyman. He'll finish up in the number 2 spot. Bleeding Blue, Scott Kiskadden here out of Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. Will finish up number 3, 304.89. The Smoke Show tractor. And that was Macy Kiskadden. She'll finish up in that number 4 spot. And then the Stitch of Mark Culberson will finish up number 5 here tonight at 280.84. So one red one kind of mixed it in there. Didn't get the win here tonight, but a great show here from the Super Farm Mod Turbo class here tonight. Once again, as they put on a great show here in Satsuma, Florida. Session number 2 here at the Just Add Dirt Motorsports Park. So we'll go back over to the starting line, and we've got the mini rods as we see Cody Singletary sitting in his seat patiently waiting for the call to make his way to the starting line here. Of course, Cody out of Tar Heel, North Carolina. He'll have 2 tractors here in the competition. You can see right behind him there. There we take a look at the injector hat up on top of that 1471 supercharger. It's the biggest supercharger allowed to run in the mini class. As we see some of the great fans, big crowd coming out here tonight, enjoying the pulling action here in Florida. So we're about 45 to 50 minutes south of Jacksonville, about 30 miles west of the St. Augustine area. Some of the big crowd coming out. Now we've got quite a few of the fans actually piled up there down turn 1 of the racetrack down there at the start line area. And we'll see some will make their way down towards the end of the track here. As usually that's where a lot of the fans like to be, there at the end of the track, but they're enjoying all the great action here this evening. Session number 2. As looks like going to make a weight change here as we get ready for our next class coming up over on the grandstand side here tonight. So Super Farm Mod Turbo. Congratulations, Jason Forrester with the Papa Smurf, our latest winner. So there's something you don't see very often. Usually we don't use an excavator to take the weights out of the weight transfer machine, but here in Satsuma, this is how we do it. We got the high lift to pull them out there. We see some of the modified tractors, some of the pro stocks. There we see Chris Couch warming up his pro stock. They're going to be out a little bit later on here. Stay tuned. Some great action here. We've got the Outlaw Pullers are sanctioning tonight's action in the 5.0 Pro Stock class as well as the 3.0 Diesel Pickup class here tonight. So Chris Couch will warm it up, Cotton Picking Deer, as he gets ready for tonight's action. So we'll go back over here to the mini rod side as we should have Cody Singletary up next here in our mini class here. You come. All right, so we've got our winner here in our light super stock class joining us here tonight, and Larry will have you put that on and have a quick word with you. I know want to get rolling here tonight, but Larry, we talked this morning in the down at breakfast there in the hotel lobby, and you said, you haven't driven this tractor in quite a while. And boy, you put really 2 nice passes on it here this weekend.
Yeah, so that was my second pass on that tractor since Brandon's redone it. And, it's, the old saying, it's like riding a bicycle. That one is. I mean, it hooks and goes.
I kind of referred to it as an old pair of shoes. You just got in there and, 2 nights in a row. Last night over 400 feet. Here tonight 340 feet. But, man, what a weekend you had.
Yeah, we've had a good one. And, I tell you what, it's good dirt, good track. It was fast track. So, really had a good time here.
Well, once again, fans, Larry Phillips joining us here, the winner of our light super stock class, the Insanity tractor. And like you say, tonight it seemed like was kind of pulling the pullers off to the left-hand side of the track a little bit. I know we saw the light trouble as well as Mark Kelsey kind of got off to that left side a little bit.
Yeah. So when it come up out of the hole there and lifted the front end, it was trying to carry me that way, and I got it back. probably hurt me a little bit, but still, it, you know, front end was up and headed this way.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about, you know, a big weekend or big, you know, coming up here this week. You guys got 2 tractors you're going to run there in the farm show Saturday afternoon. Everything all ready to go, or you got a panic week ahead of you?
No, actually, Brandon stayed home this weekend. He finished mine up today, shining, making it pretty. Got a little work to do to the deer, but for the most part, we're good to go.
And Larry, you know, you're a former winner down there in Louisville. What does that pull mean?
Oh, I don't know. It's just, I mean, it's a great place to pull. It's a little hectic, but I love going there. I've loved going there since I was 5 years old. And, you know, there ain't very many of them hooks I missed down there. So. Yeah,
absolutely. And we'll see if you can do it again. Well, Larry, thanks for joining us here tonight. Full Pull Live. Our winner of our light super stock class is Larry sweeps the weekend here in Satsuma, Florida. And Larry, we'll let you get on the road. We know a lot of you guys are heading out and getting back, and we'll see you next weekend.
All right, Dan. Thank you.
Yep, Larry Phillips joining us here on Full Pull Live here tonight, the winner of our light super stock class, and did an excellent job here all weekend long. And we'll have 2 tractors in competition next weekend at the National Farm Machinery Show. So Cody Singletary ready to go back to work here in our 2,050-pound blown mini rod class here tonight. So first of 2 entries he'll have here. This is the Carolina Night Train number 2. Cody this past year running out on the NTPA Grand National Circuit for the first time and put one of his tractors in the top 10. So hard to do. Here we go. So Chase Richardson, our current leader at 326.65. He leads the way here. Cody Singletary coming up a little bit short. Now, interesting to note, we talked to Larry Phillips about, you know, that hook in the track. Says, you know, had to make that correction early. You don't make that correction early, and that track will take you over there to the left side. So Cody Singletary, he'll get off this tractor here. We'll head him back towards the start line as he will run his second machine here tonight. So 326.65 right now looks pretty safe here for Chase Richardson as he's sitting on top here. Look at the distance in here for Cody Singletary. Tar Heel, North Carolina. Young man owns an excavating company down there. As you see here on the replay, 296.86 for Cody, 296.86 for the Night Train number 2 here, 296.86. So we'll see here, make some adjustments here on his second tractor. And as we go back over to the grandstand side, we should have the 2-wheel drive, 6,200-pound 2-wheel drives. As we've got Casey Wolf on the starting line here with his Chevy S10 he calls Road Rage out of East Hampton, Connecticut. Now purchased this truck from the Skinner family just not too long ago. So running out of the state of Connecticut. You don't see too many 2-wheel drives coming out of Connecticut. This is one of the tough ones here. Casey Wolf. All right, a little bit heavy on the nose there. 2-wheel drive, want to get that front end up a little bit. But a nice run here to start off our 6,200-pound 2-wheel drive class out of East Hampton, Connecticut. See that Chevy S10 body. And now the official will ask whether or not Casey going to take that run. Going to give thumbs up or thumbs down. And it looks like the young lady says, yes, I'm going to take it here tonight. So we'll get the distance in here for Casey Wolf. And the Road Rage. So 326.67 here, 326 and 67. for Casey Wolf here tonight. The Road Rage here in two-wheel drive competition as we go back to the start line. Cody Singletary with the Carolina Night Train #1 tractor. I have to go back and see. We were supposed to have Dick Storhalter was in the competition here. We'll see if he was entered here tonight, as we may have a scratch here. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, we talked about Kevin Hill not being here with his unfortunate accident this afternoon, but all right, I guess we'll just have to wait and see here. We don't see. Okay, yeah, we do see on the lineup here. So just wait and see what happens here. As looks like Cody, by the luck of the draw, going to draw here next up. There we see Chase, No Practice Podcast shirt on here tonight. Repping the podcast here with the shirt. So he's sitting on top this blown mini class here tonight, 326 and 65. 326 and 65. And once again, we are going to run the Outlaw classes here, the 3.0 diesel trucks as well as the 5.0 Pro stocks. Going to run them on the infield track here once again, right around that 8 o'clock time slot. That's what they did last night. We're going to do it again here. Now here's last night's winner. This is Ian Ericker out of Frederick, Maryland with his 1970 Chevrolet. He took the big win here in two-wheel drive last night. Also got a modified tractor. Going to run a little bit later on in the competition. Brand new modified tractor. But out of Frederick, Maryland here, Ian Ericker. So right now, 326.67, the mark to beat in our 6,200-pound two-wheel drive class. We'll have Dale Forrester will be our final competitor in the Turn Back the Clock entry out of Scotland, PA. But first up, we've got the old 70 Chevrolet. Got to be close here. The Village Idiots pulling team. Boy, I've heard some great names over the years, and that one's got to take the cake right there. Door slamming division of unstable pulling team. The Village Idiots. Good run here for the 1970 Chevy. Oh, so close here. 319.63 will put him number 2. 319 and 63 here for Ian Ericker with his 70 Chevrolet. So we'll put him in the number 2 spot as we go back over to the blown mini rod side. We should have Cody Singletary with the Carolina Night Train #1 out of Tar Heel, North Carolina. And just looking back there, I don't see Dick Storhalter's tractor back there, so he was on the lineup, but looks like maybe a problem there, not going to make it. So this, I'm going to have to say, will probably be it here tonight for the blown minis. A couple scratches here on night number 2. So we got the mark to beat over on the mini track, 326.65. Over on the two-wheel drive track, we've got 326.67. So 2/100ths of a foot further over there. Here we go. All right, so Cody Singletary and the Carolina Night Train, #1. Get him back here to the sled, and Looks like Chase Richardson going to win it here tonight. But we'll officially wait here on the word. All right, so Cody just going to shut it down right there. We'll get the distance in here for him. Now his first tractor came up at 296.86. 296.86. There you can see removing the neck brace, all the safety equipment that they run here. Got the fireproof boots, the gloves, multi-layer fire suit, snow-approved helmet, all the equipment you would see in any major motorsport. Of course, your tractor and truck pulling, these Grand National style mini rods. So Cody Singletary will head back to Tar Heel, North Carolina here as we'll officially wait here to see whether or not that Dick Storhalter are going to be out there. But I don't see him in the staging lane, so I'm going to say not going to happen here. So we'll get the distance right off the mark there. You saw Cody's tractor kind of made a little bit of a hop. And sent him off to this left-hand side of the track here. And, breezed past that 300-foot mark, so looks like 320.75, so he was tight. Real tight run here, 320.75, so by just 6 feet, Chase will take that win here tonight. 320.75 for Cody Singletary, and as we said, Dick Storhalter going to be a scratch as well as Kevin Hill tonight. So there we take a look at some of our naturally aspirated two-wheel drives. They will be the next class up here over on the infield side. And I do believe, I thought we had one more two-wheeler to run. It was supposed to be Dale Forrester with his turn back the clock entry. And do not see him down there in the staging lane. So we've got some scratches here tonight. Unfortunate. So once again, Full Pull Live joining you here in Satsuma, Florida for session number 2 here tonight. Well, we're going to bring in the big winner here, the mini rod class. And Chase, we talked about it earlier. Last night, we're fighting that tractor, wanted to one wheel on you, go to the right side. Here tonight, what kind of adjustments did you make?
Firstly, I want to send thoughts and prayers to Kevin Hill. Never call or information you don't hear, so thoughts and prayers to him. We talked to him, and it sounds like he's going to be okay, but him and Bruce Law making us stress out a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit here.
Shout out to those guys, and speedy really recovery, and things go in perspective when you're in news like that. So, but pulling, it was easier because Kevin wasn't here. He won last night.
Yeah, that's what I say. Last night's winner, and then Dick Storhalter not here tonight. He had some issues, but a tight class. But Cody made it close there.
Yeah, what was the distance?
He went 320.75 for number 2 spot. You went 326.65 for the win here tonight. So
yeah, well, it's anytime you go to new geography and pull somewhere, it's always, it humbles you fastly, like it did me last night. But never have any of this figured out. You just do the best you can, and this has the potential to be a really big event, I believe. Shout out to Mark Kelsey for putting this on. You see the 350-foot track outdoors in February. You can't get that very often. So
and everybody's been complimenting about the track. It's taking the horsepower. Anything that you could lay down, it's definitely taking it.
People, my friends in pulling, as you can say, was the track bad? The track wasn't bad. It was the pulling was bad. So it's not a bad track at all. It's different.
So I'm going to send it, back to my original question here. We saw last night the tractor wanted to go to the right on you. What did you change anything, or was it just driving style tonight, or what was it? Got to be something.
I got this teammate named Donald. He says I can't drive a Mini. I think I proved his point right last night. Now it's the more you pull, the more you learn. So it didn't change a whole lot. Just try to do a little better job of setting up and driving. So.
All right. Well, we're going to go here with our naturally aspirated two-wheel drive class. Is going to be next up here, and Chase, we'll let you get back to loading up here and get down the road here. I know a lot of the folks are heading out here tonight, but thanks for joining us here on Full Pull Live. And we were telling the folks 23 states now and D.C.
24 counting D.C. Yeah, that's exciting news. And looking forward to the Farm Machinery Show next week. That's always a fun week, and luckily we get to pull on Friday night and two-wheel drive. So,
all right, sounds good.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, Chase. So Chase Richardson, the winner of our mini rod class here tonight, as we're going. All right, so 5,500-pound two-wheel drive, 5,200-pound two-wheel drives, as this is the Wild Hog entry, as this is Howell Clements. Now, he was our big winner last night, 1968 Chevrolet. By the luck of the draw, he comes out here early in this class and will set the mark here. So Howell Clements, the Wild Hog out of Georgia. So we'll get the distance in here for him. So again, good feel to these trucks here coming out of Georgia. This truck here, Howell Clements. As we see, we've got the V8 hot rods staring down. Takes you back to the early days of tractor and truck pulling. As they will be next up over on the grandstand side here tonight. They'll weigh in at 5,500 pounds. So Howell Clements will get the distance in here for the Wild Hog, and whether or not he is going to keep that run here tonight. So moving things through fast and furious here. Night number 2 here in Satsuma, Florida. And we just talked with Chase Richardson, the winner of the mini class here tonight, as he gets ready for this weekend. We'll be running National Farm Machinery Show on Friday night. He was invited as the NTPA Grand National Champion, so he'll run in the second flight of the two-wheel drives. On Friday night, they'll run Thursday night as well as Friday night. We'll take the top 4 from each of those and run the finals on Saturday night. And be the grand champion. That's what it's all about. You want to be the grand champion at the farm show. So here's the Wild Hogs run. Good run. Look at that front end come up. Transferring the weight back to those rear tires. Now the trucks that run up in the Georgia circuit, they run a cut tire on the back. We'll see some of the trucks out here will actually have DOT tires on the back. And they run pretty tough together. We'll see whether or not that Howell took this run here tonight. Get the distance in here for him. Whether or not that he was happy with that one. So 3:32.58. I'm going to say he's probably going to take that run. That's a good one right there. 3:32.58 here in our class. Of course, plenty of room down here on these trucks a little bit further. And here we go, the kitchen maid. She's got the lights flashing here. Hot rod tractors. All right, this is Betty Miller out of Camp Point, Illinois, with her Massey Harris 44 tractor. She got it painted up blue, and we got the flashing lights on the side of it. The kitchen made these tractors 5,500 pounds. V8 tractors. All right, here we go. Back two-wheel drive. '51 Chevrolet. This is Tim Bowen out of Liberty Center, Ohio. Buckeye here with the backdraft. Now he finished up number 2 last night in session number 1. You can see the DOT tires on the back of them. And now they'll run head-to-head here with those cut tire trucks out there. 3:32.58, the mark to beat here. And we'll see if Tim Bowen can do it, or if he did do it. But looks like first we're going to go back over here to the kitchen maid, Betty Miller, test puller in our V8 hot rod class. 292 and 47. 292 and 47. for the Kitchen Maid. Very unique class, as you will see as it moves along here if you were not able to join us last night. So 292.47 for the Kitchen Maid, Betty Miller, and I would imagine she will probably go ahead and take that run. We didn't see the thumbs up there. As we get the distance in here as well for the backdraft, Tim Bowen, that good-looking 51 Chevrolet here over on the naturally aspirated two-wheel drive side. Once again, great crowd on hand here at Satsuma, Florida for night number 2. As 276 and 30. 276 and 30, so going to be a little bit short there is Howell Clements, the Wild Hog. Great run here tonight, 276.30. We'll put Tim Bowen in that number 2 spot here. So we were just a couple tenths, actually a couple hundredths of a foot, I think, was between first and second last night in this class. And right now that 68 Chevrolet showing the way here. We've got the red-headed stepchild up next here in our hot rod class. As this is going to be Anthony Hoisington, Super 88 Oliver, out of Mount Dora, Florida. Hotbed here for these hot rods, Mount Dora, Florida. The red-headed stepchild. Red-headed stepchild going to come up short here, I do believe. Running out of power here in our 5,500-pound V8 hot rod class. Anthony Hoisington had to go better than 292.47. I do believe going to be just a little bit short here. As we go back over the two-wheel drive side. We've got the Hog Waller Jr., 67 Chevrolet, Dustin Holmes, Leesburg, Florida. We got a little bit of... All right, here we go. Oh, by that much. The Hog Waller Jr. here. Dustin Holmes, Leesburg, Florida. First, we're going to take a look at Anthony Hoisington with his Super 88 Oliver. New leader, 300.24. Didn't think he did it, but you can see right there he got it done. So 300.24, new leader here in our hot rod class here tonight. So 300.24 will put the Kitchen Maid back to the number 2 spot. Betty Miller at 292.47. As we'll get the distance in here for Dustin Holmes with the Hog Waller Jr. truck out of Florida. Very popular class down here, Florida, Georgia. So we've got a couple of the Buckeye trucks down here as well. Mix it up with them. So there we go. Dustin Holmes goes 281 and 94 here. 281.94 for that number 2 spot. 281.94 here tonight. And well, that just goes to show you how good a run that was for Howell Clements with the Hog Wild truck at 332.58. He's way out there. I don't think they made a sled adjustment there, but definitely a good run as we go back to the starting line. Looks like another Massey 44 here. Here in our V8 class. Looks like Virgil Gooding. Danny Boy 3, he calls this tractor. Oh. All right, so the Massey Harris Danny Boy number 3 here in our V8 hot rod class here tonight. So Wayne Van Brimmer, the Buckeye bow tie, the second of our trucks from Ohio here in our naturally aspirated two-wheel drive class. As we'll get the distance in here for Virgil Gooding. So here comes the Buckeye bow tie. Last night, didn't have the run he was looking for. 2015 Chevrolet. So Wayne Van Brimmer looking for big things here tonight with that Chevrolet. Transferring that way back to those DOT tires on the back. The Buckeye bow tie, number 2. Looks like going to fall just a little bit short here. So 332 and 58, the mark to beat here is the Wild Hog truck. As we've got another one of our V8 hot rods up on the start line here. I believe this is going to be one of the Asay brothers, Mount Dora, Florida. All right, going to be Jacob here with the Old Man tractor. As he's got the Oliver on the start line here. Got a real good run going here as we hear the crowd come alive here. So right now here in the hot rod class, mark to beat 300.24. Anthony Hoisington, our leader, as we get a distance here of 274 and 19 for Wayne Van Brimmer. 274.19 here in the competition over on the two-wheel drive side. So Wayne Van Brimmer digs in there with the Buckeye bow tie, 274.19. So all still chasing that Hog Wild way out front here at 332 and 58. As we'll kick it back over to the V8 hot rod class, 5,500-pound class. 322 and 48, new leader here. 322 and 48 for the Oliver. 322 and 48 will take over that number 1 spot here. So there we see our leaderboard in the V8 hot rod tractor class, the Old Man. And Jacob Asay in the number 1 spot here. Mount Dora, Florida at 322.48. The Super 88 Oliver, that is the redheaded stepchild, Anthony Hoisington, sits number 2 here early on. And our hot rod class is next up in two-wheel drive. We got Randy Ross here with his 1997 Chevrolet out of Buckhead, Georgia. One of the Georgia trucks. And last night this truck had a little bit of a wild ride. Got a little bit sideways, left and right down the track. Well, kept it a little bit straighter here tonight. Randy Ross out of Georgia with his 97 Chevrolet here. Yeah, last night the left, right, back and forth. The straightener out there would have had a real nice run, but naturally aspirated to two-wheel drives. As we go back to the hot rods, a tough one here. This is the Outlaw Alice Big Block Chevrolet powered AC D17. Here we go. Oh, yeah. Oh, he just keeps on trucking here. They can't stop him. Big Block Chevrolet powered Alice Chalmers. Leslie Pitts. Wow, Seville, Florida. And he is going to take the lead here in a big way past the flagman. They weren't stopping him here tonight. He used that left side of the track. He went right up there and fouled the chalk all the way down. And this is going to be a big distance here. He's looks like over that 350 mark. But first things first, we got the distance here for Randy Ross, the 97 Chevrolet. As he will go 290 and 64. So with all that zigging and zagging, we'll take over that number 2 spot here in two-wheel drive, 290 and 64. So we'll put him in the number 2 spot, Randy Ross, behind Howell Clements with the Wild Hog at 332.58. And then we got to talk about that run over on the grandstand side. Leslie Pitts and the Outlaw Alice as he goes zooming by the flag stand. And this is going to be a big distance here. Yeah, 4:17 and 49. Wow. And that's going to be, second longest distance of the weekend here is Larry Phillips last night to 4:25 down the track. So 4:17 and 49 for Leslie Pitts and that Outlaw Alice tractor as he goes number 1 here, 4:17.49. Seville, Florida. Now formerly, got a note here, says formerly out of Ohio. And, made his way down here to Florida. Outlaw Alice as we've got the Hog Wild coming up here next. We'll see the Larry Harrison sticker, former four-wheel drive competitor, the old pumpkin truck. So popular down here in the Florida area. Of course, Larry passed away a few years back. Johnny Brown, last night's winner. I do remember. Last night's winner here. Johnny Brown, 1987 Chevrolet. Hog Wild. Looking for the sweep here this weekend. Good running truck here, Johnny Brown. So right now, 332.58, the mark to beat here. And we will see. Well, first up, here we go. Another Alice Chalmers this time around. All right, that's John Nicole out of Spring Grove, Virginia, with his AC 195. He calls the loose change. So John Nicole, the loose change, Spring Grove, Georgia. Or Spring Grove, Virginia. Sorry about that. Loose change. AC 185. So they're getting down here. These V8 hot rods, the last two. Alice Chalmers putting on a show here. As we'll see distance for, just short. Johnny Brown, last night's winner. 323 even here in two-wheel drive. 323 even. Will not repeat here tonight. So we see a great run right there. got that front end up. So we'll put him number 2 here. 323 even. As we got Howell in that number 1 spot, Howell Clements. So the Hog truck sitting 1 and 2 right now. Wild Hog and the Hog Wild. As we'll get the distance in here for the AC 185. That was John Nicole. The loose change at 400.55. So number 2 spot here. They're really starting to stretch him out here. 400.55. So it looks like we've got just a couple more tractors to go here in our V8 Hot Rod class here tonight. So 417 at 49. Leslie Pitts out front of Seville, Florida with his Outlaw Alice. And we'll put the loose change Alice number 2 as we've got Tate Woods here, the Shakin' Tater truck. Going to be up next here in our 5,200-pound two-wheel drive class. Weirsdale, Florida, the Shakin' Tater Chevrolet. So you got the cut tires on the back there. You see our leaderboard, 332 and 58. So he's looking at that marker down there. Got that sled just about dead center here once again. That's where the two-wheeler's been working. All right, so cleans out the big block Chevrolet. 5,200-pound two-wheel drive Shakin' Tater. Whoa. Runs out of stuff here. Got a little bit sideways, a little crossed up here. For Tate Woods out of Weirsdale, Florida. Once again, naturally aspirated two-wheel drives, no superchargers, no turbocharging allowed in this class. As we go back, hot rod pulling. There's Brandon Asay with the misfit. He pulls the wheel off tonight. He got fired up last night at Oliver 77. It looks like going to come up short here. First up, we'll have the Shakin' Tater distance here, 292.12, a good one. We'll put him in that number 3 spot here, 292.12. 292.12. So yeah, he's a showman out there, Brandon Asay with his misfit Oliver out of Mount Dora, Florida. He says, hey, I'm just out here to put on a show, and did a great job. As we see the Shakin' Tater will go number 3 here at 292.12, and looking pretty good right now there for Howell Clements with the Wild Hog at 332.58. First hook in the class, and so far he's held them off here. So we should have, I believe, just a couple more to go here as we get 277.64 the distance, 277.64 for Brandon Asay here tonight. And there he is, the pump, fist pump, pulls the wheel off. He's a showman. We put him number 6 here. So we should have a couple more tractors. We'll see if they make their way to the start line here. Lawrence Heyman with his dollars and no cents. He was the big winner here last night. We'll see if he makes his way back to the starting line here as we go back two-wheel drive side. We should have the boss man, Matt Woods, 49 Chevrolet, Weirsdale, Florida. This was the truck last night, finished up right around number 3. on a good run here tonight. Nice and straight for the Boss Man truck. I do believe this will be our final truck here in our two-wheel drive class here tonight. So the Boss Man, Matt Woods, out of Wearsdale, Florida. Where he's got his hands up, telling the unhooker back there that I'm not going to touch anything. It's go back there and unhook the truck. So 273 and 59 the distance here, 273.59 for the Boss Man here tonight, 273.59. As we will have a rundown now for the two-wheel drive class here tonight. So Howell Clements with the Wild Hog at 332.58 will take the win here tonight. You see in that number 2 spot will be 323 even for Johnny Brown, last night's winner. The Hog Wild will finish up number 2. Shakin' Tater and Kate Woods will finish up in that number 3 spot at 292.12. Number 4 spot will be the Randy Ross Chevrolet, as we're going back to live action here. All right, we've got the naturally aspirated minis up next here over on the grandstand track here tonight. Big field once again of the naturally aspirated tractors, as we got Bruce Robinson and the straight shooter, our test hook here. Small block entry there. You can see the headers on that tractor. So the straight shooter, Bruce Robinson, our test hook here in the naturally aspirated mini rod competition here tonight. Looks to be right about that 300-foot mark or so. We'll see what the distance officially is here for him, but nice run. You see that front end come up and transferred the weight back to those rear tires. Real good run here to start off our naturally aspirated mini class. All right, so 297 and 11. 297 and 11 here for Bruce Robinson. 297 and 11 to get us started here. And see if we can, we couldn't see any, whether or not he's going to take that run. But I'd have to say he's going to be satisfied with that one. As we see some of our limited pro stock diesel truck competitors are going to be up next here over on the infield side. Again, a good field coming down here to run here in Florida. And we've got the straighten up entry going to be up next here in our mini class. So it's going to be Dale Runkle here. We'll see here if we can get a rundown for our hot rod tractors here tonight. So there it is. The big win. Got to go to Leslie Pitts with that Outlaw Alice. The D17 powered by the Big Block Chevrolet 417.49. Big distance will take the win here tonight. Loose change will finish up in that number 2 spot here tonight. That was the Alice Chalmers 195 tractor. John Nicole out of Virginia will finish up number 2. The Old Man will finish up number 3. 322.48 here. And that was Jacob Asay out of Mount Dora, Florida. Will finish up number 3. We got the Super 88 Oliver 300.24. That was the redheaded stepchild in Anthony Hoisington. And then rounding out our top 5 officially was our test puller, the Kitchen Maid tractor out of the state of Illinois, Betty Miller at 292 and 47. So it looks like we're back over naturally aspirated mini side. And Dale Runkle. All right, straighten up, he calls this tractor. Dale Runkle out of Ocala, Florida. makes his run here tonight. Bruce Robinson, our current leader in the class at 297 and 11. 297 and 11. A straight shooter. This is one of our largest classes of the weekend here, these naturally aspirated minis. And boy, they put on a show as we get ready to go here with our diesel truck class. Up next here, this, of course, class going to be sanctioned by the Outlaw Pullers, the Outlaw Truck and Tractor Pullers Association. So first up, our test puller here in our competition. You the big winner? All right, come on over. All right, so we're going to be joined here by our winner here of our two-wheel drive class, Mr. Howell Clements. We'll have him put the headset on here. We'll talk a little bit about two-wheel drive pulling here.
Okay.
All right, so we're joined here, Howell Clements, the winner of our two-wheel drive class here tonight. Now, I got to ask you, what is the with the hogs? We got the wild hog. We've got the hog wild.
You got the wrong guy.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I was running the V8 tractor.
Oh, you're the Alice Chalmers.
Yeah.
You're out 400 feet. I didn't think you'd come back yet. All right. Well, here we go. That explains it right there. So Leslie Pitts joining us
That'd
here.
be me.
Congratulations. The D17 with the big block Chevrolet in it.
Correct.
And did you finally get that thing shut down there?
Yeah, if I had to let off of it, I didn't want to take it clear out the parking lot.
So last night, had a little bit of issue with the tractor? I mean, now we saw it a couple weeks ago down in Zellwood.
Right.
And she hauled the mail down there.
Well, last night the track wasn't as good as it is tonight, and it just wouldn't bite last night. Couldn't get a hold of nothing.
Okay. So tonight we saw you right away. You went over to that left-hand sideline.
Yeah.
And you must have saw, what'd you see over there? You see some dry dirt?
It's a lot firmer track on that side.
Okay.
This side on the track over here, there's a low spot down there, and it's really wet and soggy.
Okay.
And it just, when you hit that wet spot, it just kills you. You lose traction, you can't control it.
Okay, so now somebody gave me a note earlier that said you're originally from Ohio.
Right.
So
we live here in the wintertime.
Okay, so where up in Ohio do you live?
You know where Canton, Ohio is at?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we did a big Grand National pull up there
last
year.
I live 20 miles east of Canton.
Okay. And what town?
You know where Minerva's at?
Minerva, yes. Carlins are from Minerva.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I live
so hence the orange
6
tractor.
miles downtown.
There you go.
Yeah.
Everybody in Minerva's got orange tractors.
Well, not all of them.
Not all of them.
Most of them do. Some of them do. My son runs an orange one, but he runs a classic superstar.
Okay. So another popular class up there in Florida.
Yes.
As we run our next mini rod here, once again joined by our winner of our Hot Rod V8 tractor class, and very popular class down here in the state of Florida. Now, do you ever take the tractor back up north?
Or? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I'll take it back up in summertime. I'll have it back up there.
And you'll run in the hot rod class up there?
Yeah, we joined the NTPA up there this year.
Okay.
So we'll be running a lot of NTPA pulls up there this year.
Well, maybe we'll see you up at one of the polls here. No doubt we'll probably run into you somewhere up there.
Yeah, I hope so.
But the tractor ran just excellent here.
Oh, that tractor ran good tonight.
She was hauling the mail, 4:17:49, the second furthest distance of the weekend here. So that was.
Well, I could have took it a little bit farther, but I figured that was far enough. I quit. I let off of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other Alice gave you a little sweat there.
Yeah, he run pretty good
at the end there. But now, where's the next hook for this class?
It's down at Kissimmee is next weekend. Next weekend.
So you're going to run down there next weekend?
Yeah, I'll probably run down Kissimmee next weekend.
Well, Leslie, congratulations. Thank you for joining us here tonight. And we'll see you down the road, I'm sure, somewhere up there in Ohio.
Yes, I hope so.
So you come down here for the winter and then bring your pulling tractor with you?
Yeah, we come down in November, 1st of November, and then we go back home in May.
All right.
We still got a farm up there, but I don't farm it. I got it rented out.
Ah, okay.
I'm too old.
Well, that's the way to do it, right?
That's it.
All right, so Leslie Pitts joining us here, the winner
Thank you
of
very
our
much.
V8 tractor. Yes, thank you very much for joining us. All right, so we see Chuck. There we go. All right, so Chuck Gutter there with the common hooker truck. Chuck, another one of the Northeasterners as we see our next mini rod backing in here. Naturally aspirated mini rods. As this is going to be the Bad Blood tractor. Very good runner here. This is Milton Westgate out of Freetown, Massachusetts. Now, he was the big winner with his other tractor last night. As we see our leaderboard for the naturally aspirated minis, 297.11, the straight shooter. That was our test puller. Bruce Robinson leading the way here. 297.11 as we take a look up at the Bad Blood. Good shot right there. Naturally aspirated minis. All right, good run there for the Bad Blood. Milton will have a couple tractors in the competition here. One with his other one last night, the Mean Streak. A real good run here. 297.11, the mark to beat here in our mini rod class. Naturally aspirated, no supercharging, no turbocharging. So a couple of our tractors, I mean, we take a look here at our lineup. We've got tractors here in the naturally aspirated class from New Jersey, Massachusetts. We've also got Michigan represented. I do believe we've got Florida. We have Florida represented as well. So they've come from all over Maryland as well. There's the distance for Chuck Gutter with the common hooker at 300.50. 300.50 here in our 3.0 Pro Stock or Limited Pro diesel truck class here tonight, 300.5. We'll take the lead here. We'll move the night moves of Derek Elliott back to the number 2 spot here at 286.98. 286.98. So Chuck Gutter out of the Northeast there with his common hooker, 300.50. But we've still got, we got last night's winner still sitting back there, as well as that farm truck we talked about on our countdown show. 297.21 here, 297.21. And we are going to have a new leader by not much here, by a tenth of a foot. We will change that number 1 spot here, so Milton Westgate will take over that number 1 spot, 297.21, 297.21. We'll put Bruce Robinson back number 2 at 297.10. As we see the second-hand smoke there, 266 and 65. As that was the Chris Graham tractor out of Salem, New Jersey, and then we see the mini Chevrolet there. That was Dale Runkle, Ocala, Florida, 268 and 74. As we see some of the folks here enjoying a beautiful, beautiful evening of pulling action here early in February, and some of the folks got the sweatshirt on. It's didn't get as well, not as cool as we've seen last night. Beautiful evening of pulling action here. The fans here in Satsuma, Florida, and just at Dirt Motorsports Park. As we continue on here in our naturally aspirated mini class, we got our next Limited Pro diesel truck up next here. So yeah, looks like we're going to go diesel truck pulling up first. Still got last night's winner sitting back there. As we got Zach Glacken here out of Kentucky, the Peacemaker. Another one of the trucks out of the bluegrass coming down here into Florida. 300.50, the mark to beat here. The common hooker leads the way, Chuck Dutter. As we see the farm truck back there, he'll be up next. And that will be Xander Lee out of Texas. Zach Glacken and the Peacemaker Dodge working that left side of the track. 8,000-pound limited pro stock diesel trucks, limited to one turbocharger, 3 inches is the size of the turbocharger. You see the DOT street-approved tires, allowed to run dualies on them. Now, when that rule went through that you were allowed to run dualies, everybody put them on. Of course, 6 tires working better than 4. Such a very popular class. Last year we saw that. Some of our fall pulls that we put on here with Full Pull Live were down at Diesels and Dark Corners. Over 75 of these 3.0 diesel trucks running to be the best of the best. And they all ran down there to see who would bring home the weekend championship. And you win the weekend, you get a championship wrestling style belt down there. And Xander Lee took the big win down there over 75 tough trucks. So 289.94 here. 289 and 94 will be the distance for Zach Glacken here tonight. And that will put him in that number 2 spot right now, behind the common hooker of Chuck Dutter. So we'll see here who we'll have up next here in our mini rod class here tonight, the naturally aspirated minis, which will be running the big 5.0 Pro Stocks. We'll follow the limited pro diesel trucks here tonight. We're kind of winding down here, winding the show down just a little bit here. As we see, there is the farm truck. That's Xander Lee out of Houston, Texas. He was the big winner there at Diesels and Dark Corners. And the following weekend went out to drove all the way out to Madera, California. I had to ask him, he's still on that high from winning that big one out there in Georgia, and he says, "Yep, absolutely." So, but that's all, common rules. That's what you look for. You can run anywhere from Georgia to Texas to California, and all the rules are the same. These limited pro diesel trucks, the 3.0s. So Xander Lee makes his way to the starting line here. Next up in our 8,000-pound limited pro class is we've got our next mini rod also backing in. So great competition here. Hope you got your picks in, full pull picks here tonight. You'll also be able to do a little bit of wagering on the modified class and the pro stock. So get those entries in before they start, because once they start, the entries will be closed. So not able to do that. See? So Xander Lee up next here. Limited Pro Diesel Truck class. Going to move that sled a little bit closer to that left-hand chalk line. As you can see, we saw most of the two-wheelers working that middle of the track. All right, gets thumbs up. Concentration. Here we go. All right, good run there. And over on the mini rod side, going to shake things up here. 297.21, the mark to beat. And I think we may have a new leader here. All right, back over to the diesel truck side. 300.50, .50. All right, Xander Lee. I do believe we are going to move that lead marker here. The farm truck. Going to move that lead marker here. Had some tough luck there at the Shy Diesel Extravaganza. The PPL pull back at the end of August. So Pete Yarrington, the Copperhead, new leader, 3:31 and 46 here. 3:31 and 46 for the Copperhead tractor. Pete Yarrington out of Elmer, New Jersey here tonight. So 3:31 and 46 as we are going to move that lead distance marker down there. So 3:31.46 will move the Bad Blood back to the number 2 spot. That was Milton Westgate out of Massachusetts. As we'll take a look here at Xander Lee's run with the farm truck. Had to go better than 300 feet. There it is, 3:14.05 for Xander. He will take over that number 1 spot here, 3:14.05 the distance, 3:14.05 for Xander Lee here tonight as we'll take over that number 1 spot. We've still got 4 to go here. So still some more trucks to go. Our limited pro diesel truck class. We've still got last night's winner down there waiting in the wings as well. So we'll go back over to the limited naturally aspirated mini rod class. As we've got the Flasher up next here. This is going to be Joseph Wills out of Brandywine, Maryland here with his Flasher tractor. All right, so good run there for the Flasher tractor. Got that candy apple colors as we see the chicken making its way in the stands there. You fans were with us in Lufkin, Texas. We had Jason Schultz out there racing the chicken. And we'll have to do that again sometime. So the Flasher, Joseph Wills, makes his run here out of Brandywine, Maryland. As we back in on the next limited pro diesel truck. So Xander Lee stretches things out over on the diesel truck side here. New lead distance of 3:14.05 here tonight. As we see the replay of the Flasher at 278 and 50, 278.50. 278.50 for the Flasher. And we'll put him back in that number 4 spot here tonight. 278.50. So back to the starting line. We've got Making Trouble. And this is Damon Winland. First of 2 trucks he's going to have here tonight. All right, GMC right there, GMC. Making Trouble here, Damon Winland. See the XMB performance on the side of his trucks. As we hear in the background, some of the modified tractors firing up. So Damon Windland goes 3:02.78. Good run for that number 2 spot there, making trouble. 3:02 and 78. We'll put him number 2 right now. Behind Xander Lee with that farm truck out at 3:14.05. So tight competition here in our Limited Pro Diesel truck class. As we take a look there at the, well, there's Mr. Van Beek right there, but we got last night's winner there in the diesel truck class as we will run our next mini rod. We got the roar of the modifieds behind us warming up. So next up here in Out of Control mini rod class here tonight, going to be Scott Levenshire out of Freetown, Massachusetts, as he backs in. It's a tough running mini rod. Rolling Stone on the front and Out of Control on the side, so take your pick. We're going to go with Out of Control here. Freetown, Massachusetts. That mark to beat right now in the minis, 3:31.46. Oh, he's got the wheels up. Oh, by that much right there. You see the lead marker. In pulling, we measure to the front of the sled, not actually the pulling vehicle, but we measure to the front of that sled as we take a good look. The front of the gunslinger, last night's winner. This is Bo Curry, and now Bo Curry comes to us out of Kentucky. Strong running Ford right here. Let's see if he can double up here tonight. He's got to go better than 3:14.05 to take the lead. Oh, he's on it. Running that left-hand sideline. Is it enough to take over that number 1 spot, the Ford? Out of Kentucky, Bo Curry. A real tough runner there on the TNT circuit. In the state of Kentucky, 3:09.89. Good run. 3:09.89 for the straight shooter or the Out of Control tractor. 3:09.89. And that will put him in the number 2 spot here out of the state of Massachusetts. So number 2 spot there, but still quite a ways behind. Pete Arrington with the Copperhead out at the 3:31.46, the tractor out of New Jersey. So we've still got a couple tough ones left to go here. Last night's winner still buried down in there. As you see, Bo Curry goes 2:99.85. He's going to come up short here tonight. So we're going to have a new winner. 2:99.85 for Bo Curry and the Gunslinger Ford. As you can see right there, the lead marker there on the right side of the track. So Xander Lee leading the way, 3:14.05 with the farm truck. Number 2 making trouble. And that is Damon Windland. Number 3 will be the common hooker and Chuck Gutter. So here comes the Gator. This is going to be Glenn Neal out of St. Cloud, Florida, the Intimigator tractor. Take a look at that out on the front. Said earlier in our countdown show, I went gator hunting this weekend, looking to see if I can see an alligator in the wild. It wasn't successful, but I was told got to go a little bit more south to see gators in the wild. Beautiful looking tractor. Here's got the green light underneath it. The throttle handle is actually a formed alligator. So let's see if the tractor out of Florida can get it done. Just never got up on top of it here tonight. The Intimigator tractor. Good looking ride, but going to come up short here to that 331.46 that it's going to take over that number 1 spot here tonight. So Glenn Neal out of St. Cloud, Florida, with his Intimigator. As we see the chicken making its way through the crowd here tonight. Throwing out some freebies to all the fans here tonight that have made their way into the Just Add Dirt Motorsports Park. As we've got the Causing Trouble truck. This is Damon Winland's second ride. He sits at number 2 with the Making Trouble truck at 302.78. So 3:14.05, the mark to beat here, 3:14.05. As we'll get the distance in here for the Intimigator. At 292.40, 292.40. And that will put him in the number 5 spot here, 292.40. As we've got Damon Winland on the starting line, Causing Trouble. Look at that plume of black smoke here tonight. The Chevrolet. Uh-oh.
Okay, let me quick go and
don't want to mess with the chicken.
Go get some more balls or sand. I'll be right back.
No, that's not pullet chicken. The official souvenirs of the Outlaw Pullers. As we see the Causing Trouble truck making its way off the track here. Just a couple more to go here on the mini side. As we get 3:06, good run there for Damon. That'll put him number 2 and number 3 here tonight. Good run at 3:06 and 75. 3:06 and 75 for Damon Winland here tonight. Xander Lee, 3:14.05. He's got that cushion. And I do believe that will be our final truck of the night here in our 3.0 diesel truck class here tonight. All right, back over the mini side. Whoa. Yeah, got over that left or right side of the track there, kind of sucked him over. Had to stab the brake, bring him back around here. And Tom Hooker out of 44th Pennsylvania. Rally out top 5 is Bill Curry, last night's winner. Folks, give a round of applause for your limited pro diesel pickups here tonight. So there we see their leaderboard on our limited pro diesel trucks. 3:14.05, and I do believe Xander Lee going to be. There he is. All right. Well, he's going to be our big winner here tonight, and he has joined us before on Full Pull Live. If I remember right, we had the big championship belt down in Georgia. And Xander, congratulations, big winner here tonight.
Thank you.
What did you change up from last night? I mean, the gunslinger kind of put it on you guys last night, and you came out here tonight, and you put it back on him.
We changed a little bit in the tire pressure. We went down a little bit because the track was a little bit softer than the last place we went to.
Now, pulling down here in Florida, what do you think of this track down here?
It's a pretty decent track overall. I've seen many tracks across everywhere, and this is a relatively pretty average track.
So able to put that horsepower to the ground here in this tough diesel truck class. Now, this was kind of a interesting mix of diesel trucks we saw here. You guys coming up from Texas. We saw some of the Northeast trucks, some of the Kentucky trucks. So it was an interesting mix we saw here this weekend.
It really was a quite interesting mix.
Now, the lane that you ran down here tonight, more or less, we saw you go down that left-hand side. Kind of going back to diesels and dark corners, kind of went into no man's land over there, and kind of worked out here tonight for you as well.
Yeah, we ran that line last night, and it seemed to work pretty good, so if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely. Well, congratulations, Xander. You're going to be the big winner here tonight. Who would you like to thank for helping you get in the winner's circle here?
I would like to thank Valar Clutches, my clutch sponsor. He helps me out pretty good with sponsoring my clutches, and I'd like to thank O'Brien Diesel for building my engine. It was definitely a big contributor to my win.
Well, good way to start off 2025. What do you got up? What are in the plans here for the work for the farm truck here this year?
I believe we're going to go to Columbus next.
Okay.
And pull with Texas.
Okay. And then where down the road during the summer? You haven't decided yet, or
wherever there is a pool.
Okay. All right. You guys aren't afraid to travel. We talked about that from Georgia to California. Mm-hmm. We've seen the farm truck just up at the Shy Diesel Extravaganza. So you guys, where there's a big pull, you guys will be there. Well, we'll see you down the road.
Right,
Xander, thanks for joining us here on Full Pole Live once again. And you've kind of a little bit more accustomed to this here. We've some of the big pulls we've seen you at. So congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, Xander Lee joining us here on Full Pole Live, the winner of our 3.0 diesel truck class here tonight, coming to us out of the great state of Texas, Houston, Texas here tonight with that farm truck. Yep. I will, yeah, I'll tell him. That was my pick here for tonight. Yeah, we go back to the countdown show. So Xander Lee picking up the big win here. Back to the state of Texas as we'll get the sled set up here for our 5.0 Pro Stocks coming up next here tonight. And we saw a great show last night with the 5.0 Pro Stocks. That tractor out of Illinois just continues to put it on him. The Fly You Fool and Chuck Holsworth, as he's looking to do it again here tonight. But everybody's been back there. They've been wrenching on him, getting him ready to go. And, well, we see last night's winner. This is the winning tractor last night over on the mini side. And we've got some kind of issue going on there. Some of the folks out there working on this tractor. As this is the Mean Streak, Milton Westgate out of Freetown, Massachusetts. As we see everybody kind of looking things over there, but so yeah, I'll have to make sure that I tell Ron Stone that my pick here for the diesel trucks was the big winner here tonight. As we've got the Mean Streak fired up here. Well, he's wasting no time. Got over to that right-hand side of the track, and we see the lead distance marker up at the front of the tractor, so not going to do it here tonight. Second night in a row. All right, so we got the Mean Streak there, Milton Westgate, Freetown, Massachusetts, as we are ready to go pro stock pulling here tonight in Florida. The Road Gear Plus. Mr. Jeff Parker out of Martinsburg, Ohio, will start us off here. Of course, Jeff, a longtime puller in pro stock competition. Man out of Martinsville, Ohio, here tonight. Road Gear Plus. John Deere 8410 going to have 2 tractors in the competition. Of course, 5.0 Pro stocks, 680 cubic inches. They'll run the 24.5-inch wide rear tires at 5.0 inlet, 5 inches on the inlet side of that turbocharger. Here we go. Our test puller. All right, so the John Deere shake, rattle, and rollin' here tonight as the fans here in Satsuma cheer them on. Boisterous crowd here all weekend long here at this event. The Road Gear Plus. And Jeff Parker, of course, has run these box turbo tractors for a bunch of years. Actually would drive all the way out in the Outlaw territory from his home base there in Martinsville, Ohio, and run with the Outlaws. So did that for a bunch of years, as we'll get a distance here of 3:16 and 93. 3:16 and 93. We'll set the mark here, 3:16 and 93 for Jeff Parker, and we'll see if he was happy with that one. 3:12.65. 3:12 and 65 there for Milton Westgate with his Mean Streak tractor. We'll put him number 2 here tonight, so he's not going to be able to repeat here tonight. 3:12 and 65. So all chasing Pete Yarrington with the Copperhead. So 3:16.93 to start off the Pro Stocks here tonight. So 3:16.93 Jeff Parker, and as we believe we are getting a thumbs up here. So he was happy with that run. Of course, he'll be out a little bit later with his Out for Justice tractor. We should have, I do believe we've got one scratch here. Henry Smith, Sr. with the Sneaky Snake, not going to be able to make it out here tonight. There's Henry from Blissfield, Michigan. Had issues last night, threw the belt off the tractor. She got a little warm. The next Pro Stock making its way. Some of the fans checking out the pulling action here. Satsuma, Florida, just at Dirt Motorsports Park. Beautiful Saturday night here in February. At temperatures low 80s throughout the day here. As we take a head-on shot here. Ken Couch backing in. High Cotton out of Jackson, Tennessee. International 12:06. Jackson, Tennessee, not too awful far from the Memphis area. Over there on the western side of Tennessee, the Volunteer State. So I ran the big pros, I guess you call them the unlimited pros, for so many years. Ken Couch is looking to move up a spot. Finished number 2 last night in the competition with this International. Right now, 3:16.93, the mark to beat. Let's see if he can do it. High Cotton. Ken Couch at 12:06. See the big Mitas 24.5-inch wide tires digging down into this Florida-Georgia surface. We say Georgia because Mark Kelsey has brought in quite a bit of clay from up in Georgia to mix in here the pulling surface. There's next week here at this Motorsports Park, they're going to have the dirt drag races. They'll have the scooper tires. They'll run the side-by-side drag racing. Very popular down here in Florida. So Ken Couch, 3:25.96, new leader. 3:25.96. Will take over that number one spot here. So Ken has laid down his run here tonight. Says we see the Fly You Fool, last night's winner. That's Chuck Holsworth out of Illinois. He's waiting back there and on a hot streak here as of late. So as we take a look here at our lineup here, we should have the Radical Red should be up next. That'll be Henry Smith Jr. out of Michigan. He'll be followed by last night's winner, Chuck Holsworth. Chuck comes to us out of Sherman, Illinois with the Fly You Fool. We'll have the Pure Attitude of Brian Luckhart in that number 5 spot there as we see Ken Couch taking it back to the hauler here tonight. They've still got another tractor back there in the staging lanes down towards the bottom of the field. They're cotton picking deer. Now here over on the grandstand side, this is going to be an exhibition run here. This diesel truck. Got a different style turbo on this truck, so not legal for 3-0 competition, so he's just going to come out here and make an exhibition pass and change some stuff up on the truck. Mark Kelsey, the promoter, said, yeah, bring it on out. We'll let you make a test pass. We always say there's no practice, there's no qualifying and pulling, but sometimes you do have a practice run here or there. So the big Dodge here, we don't have a name on this gentleman, or where he is from, but uh-oh. Having trouble right there. So just starting our 5.0 Pro Stock class. As we see Team Smith out of Michigan. Father and son. Son in the seat here tonight. Dad's tractor, unfortunately, that Sneaky Snake not going to be able to run here tonight. Had some issues with it. This is the Radical Red out of Michigan. International 3688. Good, excellent run right there. Henry Smith Jr., the Radical Red. Had to go better than 3:25.96 here to take the lead. As you see our leaderboard, the High Cotton, Ken Couch leading the way. 3:25.96. Jeff Parker, number 2 currently, and there's Radical Red. We'll put him number 3 here at 3:12.49. 3:12.49. For Henry Smith Jr. out of Blissfield, Michigan. See a good hole shot there. Got the tractor up and moving. Looks like we got a little bit of oil coming out the bottom there. Not sure. All right, so the exhibition run right there for the diesel truck here tonight is come to a halt here. And we'll get you the final results here of the naturally aspirated mini rod class. The official rundown here. So that class has come to a conclusion here tonight. So not much left to go here. We've got a couple more pros to run, and we'll have the modifieds. And we will call it an evening here. Session number 2 here in Satsuma, Florida. Dan Mayer joining you once again here, Full Pull Live. And make sure you get your picks in here. Well, you've got the pro stocks running right now. The limited pros ran earlier. You were able to pick those out, but make sure you get your picks in for the modified class. That will be the final class of the evening. You'll be able to do a little bit of wagering on as they're waiting back there in the wings ready to go here tonight. So not too much pulling left to go. We've also got the picks are up for the National Farm Machinery Show, which starts on Wednesday evening. So go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night, as well as Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening. As, of course, the finals will be on Saturday night. So we'll have games up all week long for the National Farm Machinery Shows. Here is the hot tractor out of Illinois, Chuck Holsworth, and the Fly You Fool. Comes to us out of Sherman, Illinois. Chuck got a crop dusting service, hence the Fly You Fool name. Actually, kind of been worse for wear here. He's got a bum shoulder. He says he's had to move back to surgery on it. He's going to get that done after the farm show. Very tough running tractor last Saturday night up there in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Won the big Southern Invitational pull. We also saw him last fall down in Lufkin, Texas, the Outlaw event down there. He picked up the big win on Friday night. As my co-announcer Ron Stone says, it's just a Friday night. We'll see if he can do it again here on Saturday night here. Now, right now, the mark to beat here in our Pro Stock Class, Ken Couch leads it at 325 and 96. That is the mark to beat here. Now that is the tractor that finished up number 2 to Mr. Holsworth last night. The Fly You Fool entry. So Ken Couch has laid down the gauntlet and said, hey, if you want it, come and get it. Take a good look at the rear tires. Not a whole lot of rubber left on those tires right there. Got ground down pretty good. All right, it's going to start building the boost. The Fly You Fool, Chuck Holsworth, out of Illinois. All right, Deer fans cheering him on. Oh, I'm not going to call that one. This is going to be too close for comfort. It's going to be too close for comfort here. We're looking for that marker over on the right side of the track here. 325.96 is what he had to beat. And 341.21. He gets it done again. Chuck Holsworth, 341 and 21. Well, that's why we didn't see the marker, because he blew right by it here. We'll see here on. There it goes. There. That's why we didn't see it. 341 and 21. Fly You Fool, John Deere. once again. So he'll drive it back to the rig here. The Fly You Fool team. Man, that tractor is hooked up, but we're not done yet. We've still got Jeff Parker back there with his second entry, the Out for Justice ride. We've got the cotton picking gear and the Pure Attitude. So 3 left to go here, as it looks like we're going to wait up that track over there on the grandstand side. Get ready to go with our modified tractors. Should have 4 of those entries as last night's winner, Scott Tedder, with the Mr. Twister, looking to repeat here with his 3 Hemis. Very unique mod class we got here in Florida. So we've got a Hemi power tractor, we've got a Chevrolet power tractor, we've got a Ford power tractor, and then we got a turbo. So some variety here as we take a look at Ryan Luckhart with his Pure Attitude tractor. 1086 International. So he'll be next up here in our Pro Stock class as new leader Chuck Holdsworth, and the Fly You Fool takes over that number 1 spot. 341 and 21. As you see, we've got our excavator loading the wagon over there, our Rex hybrid sled. So great competition here we're seeing here again tonight. Session number 2 here in Satsuma, Florida. Once again, Full Pull Live got a lot of great content coming up here in the spring season before we get hot and heavy into the NTPA Grand National Circuit, which will start at the end of May. All right, Pure Attitude, ready to go to work here tonight. Ryan Luckhart, 341.21, the new mark to beat here at John Deere. As we get a little flash out the stack here, Ryan Luckhart, Pure Attitude. Good looking ride there. International 1086. Going to come up short there to a leader right now, Chuck Holdsworth. So Ryan takes a look back there. 264 and 08 the distance here. 264.08. For Ryan Luckhart, he takes a look there and back at the holes he dug. And he'll park his tractor over there as we'll take a look here at our leaderboard. All chasing. Tractor out of Illinois, 341.21, the John Deere. As we'll have the Cotton Picking Deer coming up next. Out for Justice, and as we said earlier, the Sneaky Snake, unfortunately a scratch here tonight. So Henry Smith Sr. not in the competition here tonight. So should have that sled ready to go here for our modified class, final class of the night here. As we take a look at our lineup sheet here, and we believe Don Dean should be our test puller, but we'll wait and see officially. As we see Chris Couch And the Cotton Picking Deer going to be up next here in our Pro Stock class here tonight. Talked to Chris this afternoon, said they're making some gains on this tractor here. Of course, the 5.0 box turbo, something new. Got to try a bunch of different things and get the tractors to run. So they ran the big pros for so many years. But he said where they live in the state of Tennessee, the closest pull they have to them would be the farm show for the big pros. So they can do a lot of pulling. They got about 5 or 6 events with the Mid-South Circuit with the 5.0 pros this summer, as well as running with the Illinois Tractor Pullers Association. They're not too far from the ITPA circuit, so they're going to concentrate on that. So they said it just made sense to make the change to the 5.0 pros. As we hear the first modified firing up down there in the staging lanes, and I can tell you from here, that's not Don Dean. So that is not a turbine firing up right now. Definitely a V8, as we'll see who will make it out to the start line here as we've got Chris Couch ready to go here. 5.0 Pro Stock class. The Cotton Picking Deer. Good run right there. John Deere 7920, the Cotton Picking Deer. Big cotton operation out there in Jackson, Tennessee. As there we take a look at the Perfect Storm backing in here, modified class. Now this tractor equipped with 3 blown and injected Ford Hemis. Yes. These are the old Allen Root Ford blocks. Ran so many years ago, and Allen Root sold that patent off and just make its way down the road. But Corey Forrester going to be doing the driving here, this tractor. They just purchased it back a few months ago. 3:19.01 the distance here for Ken. Or actually, that's Chris Couch doing the driving. 3:19.01. 3:19 and 01 will put him in that number 3 spot. So sitting number 2 and number 3 with their 2 tractors. As we get ready to go here, Corey Forrester out of Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, the Ford-powered Perfect Storm. Well, they've made some changes on this tractor. When they purchased this tractor, it came with big 1471 superchargers on it. And then they have since changed them over to 871s, but they've been struggling a little bit. Corey said they're kind of working out the combination here to get this tractor to run. Of course, on the state level where they're going to run this tractor, it can only run the 871 superchargers, so they made the switch over. But as you can see, a lot of fuel out of the pipes here is still trying to get things sorted out here. Corey Forrester in that Perfect Storm. But no doubt they will get it fixed. That's for sure. They will get it sorted out. So Chambersburg, Pennsylvania here is we'll get the distance in here for Corey just short of that 200-foot mark out here. Corey gets the helmet off there, and of course running super stock tractors. They still got the airborne tractor, their light super stock alcohol tractor that Corey's son Cole has campaigned over the years. As we go back to the start line here, we've got our next John Deere. It'll be Jeff Parker. It'll be our final tractor here So 194.64 officially distance for Corey Forrester. 194 and 64. So they've still got a little bit of work to do on that tractor, get it sorted out. All the bugs ironed out on that new ride for him. Let's purchase that tractor from up in Canada. As Rod Cochran ran that tractor for a few years. So we saw it down at Bowling Green just a couple years ago, and had a real nice run down there in the modified class. All right, back to Pro Stocks. Here we go. Jeff Parker, his second ride, the Out for Justice. Second tractor in the Parker stable is John Deere 4010. Nice straight run there for Jeff Parker, but just never transferred the weight back. Didn't get that front end up in the air. As it looks like for the second night in a row, Chuck Holsworth, the tractor out of Illinois, going to be our winner here in Pro Stock action. So we'll get the distance in here for Jeff Parker and the Out for Justice. His second ride here tonight is, see the lead marker there, 341 that Chuck Holsworth laid down here tonight. So 299 and 90, 299.90 for Jeff Parker here tonight with his second tractor. So congratulations, Chuck Holsworth, as he will sweep the weekend here in the 5.0 Pro Stocks. Now we also had a bonus in the 3.0 trucks. We saw Xander Lee. He came up and talked to us with the farm truck. The folks from Bullsnot had gave a bonus here this weekend, here tonight for the 3.0 diesel trucks, as we see the distances here. The Fly You Fool takes the win here for the second night in a row, 341 and 21. The Ken Couch of High Cotton will finish up in that number 2 spot. As we go back here to the staging lanes, is Ian Ericker up next here with his brand new ride here. These are Chevrolets out of Frederick, Maryland. Saw him earlier in his 2-wheel drive. This is brand new tractor here for him. Now just going to be running with 2 engines tonight. He joined us last night and kind of burned up that left front engine. So disconnected the drive shaft this afternoon. So only going to be running with 2 of these engines out here. As we'll bring him out on to the track right now, Ian Ericker. And that Chevrolet sponsored modified. And as we got Mr. Holsworth joining us here, the sweep of the weekend here, and we're going to have a word with him here real quick. All right, so we're joined by Chuck Holsworth here tonight, the Fly You Fool. And Chuck, first off, how's that shoulder holding up? Are you gonna be all right here?
It's just fine right now.
Okay, it's good, feeling good right now.
Good, yeah.
What a weekend you had! I mean, swept the weekend here. A great run here tonight, 341.21, and you really put it on the guys here tonight.
Felt good. Everything worked. I didn't have to touch the brakes. Good track. Amazing track tonight. So, yep.
So now, a lot of the fans, asking, where did this guy come from? All of a sudden he shows up down in Texas and, wins down there and won last weekend up there in Tennessee. What have you pulled previous to the 5.0 Pro Stocks?
I pulled 4.1 for about 7 or 8 years, and Tim Engler and Robbie Limpy. Tim built me a chassis and Robbie built the motor for me, and it took about 2-3 years to get that together, but last year is really the first year that we were able to run it. And it's an amazing machine.
Yeah, one of the top 5.0 Pro stocks in the country here, and we'll put that up against anybody.
Yeah.
And was it kind of the plan all along, with the running the Limited Pro, you were looking at the 5.0 class, or did it just kind of happen, just...
Well, three or 4 years ago, I had my 4.1 at Tim Engler's, and they were going to let us go to a component chassis in the 4.1.
Okay.
And Tim talked me out of it. He said, just build a component. So I said, okay, let's do that. So that's what we did. Then they wouldn't let us have the component chassis in the 4.1. So thank God Robbie Lindsay had a motor up there I was able to get, and he built for me. And that's kind of how it all happened. I wasn't planning it, but man, I'm glad it happened that way. So, yep.
So now tell us, during the week, crop dusting service. Tell us about that.
I've been doing that for 32 years. Started out with one airplane, and we're up to 13 airplanes and 3 helicopters now, and it keeps us busy. So.
Yeah, I would say so. Who else would you like to thank for helping you get here in the winner's circle here this weekend?
I'd like to thank God for all this. My wife, everybody. The couches came down, they all helped me, and it's great. I can't say enough about them guys, and mostly the fans that come out and watch us and support us. We couldn't do it without them, and they are what makes it fun.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Chuck, congratulations, and get that shoulder taken care of there, and we'll see you somewhere down the road here this summer. What are the plans here for the Fly You Fool for the summer? Running the ITPA circuit, or
we're gonna try to do a little both ITPA and any outlaws we can get to. We're sure gonna try to get to. So they're fun.
They'll be looking over their shoulder at that tractor coming because they ran against it last year, but. Yeah, congratulations, Chuck. What a great weekend for you, and safe travels on back up north there.
Thanks a lot.
Chuck Holsworth joining us here, the big winner here in our 5.0 Pro Stock class here this weekend. The Fly You Fool sweeps it here this weekend here in Satsuma, Florida, as they'll head back north. And, great competition here, as we just saw on the track there, is Ian Eriker's a brand new modified tractor. And running with the 2 engines here tonight, as we see Don Dean, the legend, out of Trafalgar, Indiana, to south of Indianapolis, as he will fire up the Plumber's Nightmare tractor. And now this tractor turns a lot of heads when he pulls in the pit area, and everybody checking over this tractor. Of course, will come out on the track. His little puppy engine running this tractor. They'll get it back in here to the sled and then fire up those turbine engines. So we see the distance there for the Huntsman, and Ian Eriker at 2:18.81, leader here in our modified class. As you said, running just with 2 of those Chevrolets here tonight. Had to run with 2 as he burned up that left front engine. Not quite sure what the issue is there with the tractor. They were working on it here this afternoon. Actually, Denny Horst was on hand here and still on hand. Lives down here in Florida, and he was kind of helping these guys out. Actually, they're from right around his old area there, up in Chambersburg. Of course, Ian out of Maryland, but they were trying to sort out that tractor this afternoon. I think it's somewhat of a fuel issue with it, but ran out of options, and we're just going to run with 2 here tonight. So that's what they did, and currently leads it right now at 2:18.81. So Don Dean, the Plumber's Nightmare, will fire up those 3 turbine engines. Of course, a many-time NTPA regional champion with the Region 2 circuit, as well as Region 4 down in the Carolinas, and many-time Hooker of the Year. What that means is hooked that tractor the most times than anybody else out on the circuit, and he has won that title as well. So Don Dean out of Trafalgar, Indiana, with his Plumber's Nightmare. Now, back when they had a 2-wheel drive truck back in the early 90s that they ran. That was a turbocharged entry, if memory serves me right. All right, so we'll see the turbines now will start to fire up here, and Don's got this tractor set up for the regional NTPA circuit. What that means, they've got horsepower ratings on these turbine engines, and you're only allowed to run so many with this. The rules as we hear that little puppy engine now start to spin over those turbines. So take just a few minutes here as we are all done with pulling action over here on this infield track. So we've got just 2 mods left to run here tonight, and we will call it an evening here in Satsuma, Florida, as we'll get the turbine fired up right now. Don Dean, the legend, here out of Indiana. So here we start to hear the whine of the turbines. Get them up and get them spinning. So you can see on the front side shield there, if there's a circuit, he will pull it, that's for sure. You see Ohio State, Carolina, Indiana, Florida. All right, we start seeing or hearing the RPM start to ramp up here. They see just a little bit of flame here as the whistle starts to pick up. Ever so slowly, those turbines getting them spinning. So hook number 3 here in the modified class, the Plumber's Nightmare. All right, so our Beck's hybrid sled really putting the weight on him here tonight. As Don Dean, the Plumber's Nightmare out of Indiana, makes his run here tonight. We'll get the distance in here for him. So that will leave us 1 to go here, 1 to go in our modified class. And last night's winner back there waiting in the wings. Truly an engineering marvel there. 2:20 and 37, not by much here. 2:20 and 37, so that was a really good run there for Ian Ericker. 2:20 and 37 here tonight, so we're down to 1. As Scott Tedder, Marion, Indiana, will have the final say of the evening here. Session number 2 here in Satsuma, Florida. So as we take a look here at our leaderboard, Don Dean, a new leader here with the Plumber's Nightmare, 2:20.37. Ian Ericker with the Huntsman tractor, 2:18 and 81. And then Corey Forrester, number 3 here at 194 and 64 with his ride. All right, so Don Dean, take her back to the pits. As we will fire up Scott Tedder here. with his 3 blown and injected Hemis.
I'm having major
So we will hear the thunder out of the Mr. Twister here. And Scott Tedder will fire up the 3 Hemis. As we take a look at the replay here, Don Dean's run. The tires kind of just skipping along here. Skipping along as he'll take the lead at 2:20 and 37. As there is our final tractor. Scott's in there. He's strapped in. He's ready to go. Just waiting for the call to go out. Fire up that tractor. So great weekend of pulling here in Satsuma, Florida, coming to a close here. One more tractor to run. Of course, we'd like to thank Mark Kelsey, the promoter of this event, putting on this great weekend of pulling here. And he's been a busy guy all weekend long, getting everything ready to go, and then having a little bit of time to run his tractors, have a little bit of fun. As we see back in the pits, everybody going to start loading up, heading back north.
I think I need to like rebalance it completely. So
So got 2 of those big Hemis fired up. Now we fire up engine number 3 here. So final tractor of the night here, the Mr. Twister. Our big winner last night comes out here and making sure backed in here. That's Mark Boyer driving. Yeah, I was going to say that. I seen Scott down on the track there. And all right, here we go. Mark Boyer doing the driving here. Team driver here for the Mr. Twister team. As Scott makes his way down to the end of the track here. Going for 2 in a row here in Satsuma, Florida. Got to go better than Well, we see the blower belt hanging off that left front engine there. And usually something will cause that blower belt to come off there. It possibly detonated an engine there. But Mark Boyer going to be our winner here. 2:20 and 37, the mark to beat here. So that will conclude tonight's action here from Satsuma, Florida. Thank you, fans, for watching here, Full Pull Live. We'll see you, well, in the coming weeks. We got some great stuff coming up here, some great content, so make sure you do check back from time to time on Full Pull Live. And, of course, great action here tonight. We'll get our final rundown here, the modified class here tonight. As we see Mark out of the seat there. As Scott Tedder checking things over on the tractor, but we'll officially get the distance here for him. So no doubt they will sweep the weekend here as well in the modified class. And great action here in Satsuma, Florida. And, of course, great competitors coming out here running as we'll get the distance officially here for Mark Boyer tonight. At 2:73 and 44, so officially 2:73.44 will take the win, as we'll see here on the replay. And right around here, we started things go south. Yeah, right there we saw the blower belt come off. So right there, lost that left front engine, and at that point was just running on the 2, but he might have got that fuel line as well.
There's shiny parts under the tractor.
Yeah, we can see a lot of aluminum out the bottom there. So we're going to need another power plant there before the tractor makes it to the track here again. Let's back it up just a little bit.
Figure out what it was.
There's the piece there. I think when that blower belt, we saw got the fuel line. That's usually the case. But it was enough to take the win here tonight, Mark Boyer. Yeah, we see that the fuel pump out front there kind of dangling along. So 2:73.44. Don Dean will finish up at that number 2 spot, 2:20.37. The Huntsman, Ian Ericker, will finish number 3, 2:18 and 81. And the Perfect Storm, Corey Forrester, will finish up number 4 at 194.64. Well, that will conclude the action here tonight, Full Pull Live. And thanks for joining us. I'm Dan Mayer. I'm your host here tonight. And we will see you down the road in just a little bit here, as we'll bring you some more great content coming up. But from Satsuma, Florida, we'll sign off, and we'll see you in the coming weeks. Don, how you doing?
About half. Well, what I came up here earlier and you were kind of busy, and I figured I'd come back after we got done.
Okay.
If I was the last tractor, I was just going to park right out there and jump over the wall.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to see last night's run on my tractor. Can you do that?
Yeah, go around to the trailer.
All right.
And stick your head in the door.
This trailer?
Yep, go around this white trailer.
All right.
And go